Good afternoon. How y'all doing today? This is your boy, your uncle, your cousin, your brother, some people your daddy, Bobby Hill. Another episode of the Big Down. Excuse me. Nice, beautiful afternoon out here in San Antonio. Love it out here. Beautiful weather out here. It's not too hot right now. Will be in about a couple weeks. Just enjoying this nice breeze. It's cloudy a little bit. I got the sun breaking through, a little forecast, sun breaking through, got a little wind blowing, no, you know, and then it's been raining for the past couple of days, so it's not, it's not too hot. It's not that humid. That's the difference between, North Carolina heat and here in Texas is not as humid and it's hot, but it's not. It's breathable. If that makes sense. North Carolina, I remember growing up, be hot, and the humidity be like 80 or 90%. And, you can't hardly breathe out here. So it's that's a good change of pace. And excuse me, especially now I'm trying to get back in shape. Trying to get my wind back. I posted yesterday on Facebook. Me running, jogging a little bit. I used to back in the days, about 20 years ago. I had gotten into jogging and running and stuff, and because of I had kids and life, life intervened, and I couldn't get back into it and run like I used to. But now I think I'm able to, and I want to just, I can't, I won't, probably to be realistic, I won't be able to run as much. The most I was able to run was like 5 miles. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to run a marathon. I'm not trying to do none of that. What I'm trying to do is just run to keep my wind up, my weight down, and my body, my BMI down. Yeah, excuse me. Excuse me. Those who don't know what BMI is, that's body mass index. That's the total amount of fat that's on your body. You know, trying to keep it down below 10. You know, under. I can't. Not even gonna say 5%. I'm not out here competing, nothing. So I don't. I don't need all that. We try to keep it at a healthy pace so I can, enjoy life out here as I'm getting older here, be able to enjoy life and not be, of course, I'm eventually, I'm hurt. Sometimes I'm hurt, but that's why I'm out here trying to work, stay in shape, trying to, be into fitness. And, you know, I'm trying to see if I can, I'm trying to see at my age, can I bench 400 pounds? That's what I'm trying to get to, honestly. I think I can do it. Maybe not. We're going to see. Maybe. But like I said, I'm down here in San Antonio. It's real buzz down here at the NBA playoffs, and they got expectations for San Antonio this year, and it's a real buzz. You see on the building Spurs signs, go Spurs, and see grown ass men with Wemby jerseys on. So it's real down here. I hope they do. I want to see a celebration down here. I would damn sure be at the parade. Hell, I would go live from the parade. They would have it. I would try to get down there and go live, but they would win it. I will be down there. For real. Yeah, the home of Tim Duncan, Timmy D. I haven't had a chance to meet him again. Well, I did. I met him before, but he was in college. He was at Wake Forest, and yeah, I've told people stories about that. Yeah, I met him one time. It was a brief time. It was a brief moment, not brief moment, but it was probably about mm, the time we spent in the same, in the same, within proximity of each other. Probably about 45 minutes to an hour. It was playing video games. It was playing Mortal Kombat. Well, let me set the scene up for you. Yeah, it's the scene. This is where I met. It's the only time I met Tim Duncan and I met Randolph Childress. I think it was the summer. No, the summer. Sorry, it was the. I think it was the end of '95. No, '94. No, no, yeah, it was the end of '94 and '95, and it was and they were for those who don't remember the Wake Forest team. You know, like I said, it was a player from my hometown. His name was Travis Scooter Banks. Shout out to U69, Chef Six. Shout out to you, brother. He was going to Wake Forest. He was a part of that team. He was number 34. You know, he was a senior on that team, small forward. Check him out, Travis Scooter Banks. And went up there. I was up there living in Winston Salem with my cousin, and I had friends up there that stayed up there. Rest in peace, my man Chill Will, Willie, Willie Maynard, his brother Ant Maynard stayed up there. We was always brothers for life. We hung out, and Banks was up there, and we went to the team. I guess it was in between semesters, so they weren't living on campus. The basketball team was living in a house. It was a nice house just off campus in Wake Forest. The whole team, man, most of the team stayed there. So we went over there. Me and I think it was me and Willie. Me, Willie, and Anthony went over there. And we was just over there chilling, doing what we do, man. We was drinking something, smoking a little something. Not the players, ain't, nothing like that. The players was drinking a little bit. We was drinking, we was playing spades. That was the game. You go to college, you know how to play spades and dominoes and hearts for some reason. But we went, we was in there playing spades and everything. It was me. I think Willie Chilwell was I think he was my partner. I think Banks played. I think Tony Rutland was there. Jerry Braswell. Um, um, trying to think anybody else. Tim was there, but Tim didn't play. He wasn't he wasn't playing cards. He was still like I said, it was his second year here with Forest. He was from Virgin Islands, so he was like secluded. He was in his room. They were playing video games in there, so he was in the room. He was not here when we was playing cards. So we were playing everything. But then like I said most of the players stayed there. Not all the players stayed there. So we was playing spades. What's the name? Randolph Childress comes in. He has a little baby. I think he just purchased a baby. I think it was a pit bull, a baby, cute little puppy. He had it. He was loving it. Playing. This just chilling, man. But you tell that he knew he was the man. Cause he had that little swag on and stuff, and he was just, he just had a little swag. He was very, I think, matter of fact, I think earlier, I think Carolina may have lost to NC State. It was like Carolina's first conference game. Because this was when Jerry Stackhouse and Rasheed Wallace, and it was their sophomore year. Tim Dougie his sophomore year. And who else was playing ACC year? Joe Smith, that was his sophomore year. Who was it? Jeff Capel for Duke. I think it was it was a very good year in the ACC. It was a good year in the ACC. I think Bob Sorver at Florida State, him too. I remember him. He was nice for Florida State. But yes, he came in and like I said, he had his little swag, he had his little puppy, and he was playing. He got down to play spades against me and Chill, and me and Chill put that thing on him. He had that swag. He had, on that basketball court, he had well-deserved swag, but on that spades table, he stood no chance. Every time he came around that corner, and he sat to the right of me. And y'all know whoever plays spades, whoever play to the right of you, they come around that corner, they ain't playing correct. You bust their head wide open. You bust it right to the white meat every time. Every time he come around there trying to skate a queen, got him. Coming there trying to cut with some old sorry ass like seven of spade, got him. We got oh my god, remember that. We used to we got me, me and Chill, by that time, and my man Chill would say, man, we had that oil in us. So we was out there, we talking junk and everything. It was fun. After the game, so it was all fun. It wasn't nothing real bad, nothing like that. But we was just getting them. After that, I got up and it was like, they were in there playing video games. So I walked in there and played. Excuse me. I walked in there and it was sitting there. It was a bedroom. And it was, had TV in there. It was playing Mortal Kombat. Tim sitting over there in the corner, like, just like. I didn't want nothing. We was sitting here. I sat there watching him, and it was like, yo, he can play. He's pretty good and stuff. So he went and played. First time, I guess he expect because I beat him the first time, and then he turned around and beat me the second time. And we just left it at that. I talked to him, a little bit, introduced myself. He told me who he was, and it was just, it was love. It was like, he was real, like, down to earth. It wasn't, he was, it wasn't like he was shy. He just was to himself. He was just different. He wasn't like, he like hang out with the fellas and stuff like that, but he wasn't like, not against it, but that wasn't his thing. He was just like you see him, the persona that he portrayed in the NBA, that's how he was at Wake Forest. It's the same way. But he was cool though, And I met, even though I was a Tar, even though I'm a diehard Tar Heel fan, and I love that team, man. I met all the players, man. I just, and that was we spent that time together in that house, that was very, very, it was very dear to my heart, man. Because I'm saying we just, that was a very good time, fellowshipping. Always remember it. And then when I started trying to tell people, I was working at this, place and done, distribution warehouse. This company called Dale Hayes America. They had this. That is in North Carolina. No, they have this grocery store called Food Lot. They had this distribution warehouse in Dunn, North Carolina, DC4. Shout out to all, shout out to all my peeps. I ain't gonna lie. I'm bad with names. I forgot a lot of y'all. I remember a few of y'all. Eddie Callahan, Norris McKnight, Ant Rogers. I don't think he worked there no more. He was the top dog. He was the man. Pat Brunton. I know he ain't working there no more. Bobby McDonald. Yeah, I can't think of Marcus McNeil. A few other fellas that around just, I think Bernard Jeffries. Bernard Jeffries, man, it was funny. But yeah, I just remember the fellas. And I sat there and told them that story about Tim Duncan and Wake Forest and stuff, and they didn't want to believe me. They picked up. They didn't pick on me. They just like, man, Bob, man, you ain't telling the truth. And they took Pat Brunton and were like, yo, Scooter did play, but Scooter was playing there back then, and because they were a lot younger than me, so they weren't around when all that was going on. They were young, probably in middle school or whatever. So, like, man, Scooter did play in Wake Forest, man. So I can't say it didn't happen. So. The only thing I said, that was like I said, that was a good time. That was a good time, and that was, like I said, that helped, let me realize as far as going, as far as meeting people that are in the spotlight to, let me know that they're just like me. Like I don't need like maybe one person. If I meet Obama, I would like having like an awe. Other than that, I don't know. Like I said, I don't think I'll be in awe because I feel like it's just like us, man. You're very successful, and I would shake the hand and be like, we're very, very respectful, but it wouldn't be like, like people passing out at Michael Jackson concerts and stuff like that and stuff. Nah, I wouldn't be like that. I wouldn't, be starstruck like that. I'll be like, look, you grown man, it's like I'm a grown man. What's up? Shake your hand, respect. I'll be like, I'm a fan of your work. You know, matter of fact, I remember no, I'm just reminiscing about something. This is, it wasn't no topic today. I'm just going off of, seeing where it goes, like I always do. But I remember I was in Greensboro. It was probably was about 2000, early 2000, maybe 2001, maybe 2002, 2002, maybe 2000, yeah, something like that. I was maybe 2003, one of them years. You know, I was at a restaurant. I was going to a restaurant, and we was going to park, and I seen this guy walk by with long hair, and I got a glance at him, looked at his face, glanced at him, and I said to myself, "Man, that got to be Chris. That man looked just like Christopher Williams." You know, Christopher Williams. Y'all know who Christopher Williams is. Never liked you anyway, pretty motherfucker. Y'all know who I'm talking about. You know, you know. And I just check it out, like, man, nah, maybe he looks just like, whatever. I said, that man looks just like a swim. So, we park, and then when we get into the restaurant is, like one of the restaurants where you had to sit, they have a hostess right here. So you walk in and you sit there and they like, look, can, can we seat you, or they let you know if you have to wait or anything. So we go there and we stand in there and just waiting. And I look right beside me, and had to look down a little bit because he was sort of short. And it Alan Payne right beside me. Alan Payne, yes, Alan Payne, G Money, Alan Payne, House of Payne, Alan Payne, yes. Jason Lyric, Jason's Lyric, Alan Payne, yes. It was him. First, I was like, yo, what's up, man? I was like, I looked at him. Oh, damn, that is him. And I looked, that was Christopher Williams. So I said, that's Alan Payne. I said, that was Christopher. I, that solidified it for me. 'Cause I looked and seen him like, I think he was talking to somebody getting their table or whatever. He wasn't around. So right beside him, and so like I said, he was short. I'm 6 feet, 6'1". He had to be like 5'7", at least 5'7". So 5'7", 5'8", something like that. He was short. He was short, and I just shook his hand. And I just whispered to him like, "Yo, man, I shook his hand. Nice to meet you, man. I'm a big fan of your work." He shook his hand like, "Thank you, my brother," and just gave him his walked off, and that was it. I met him. That was he asked for an autograph and nothing like that. Because first of all, I didn't feel like it was appropriate because you know people probably get asked for autographs like that all the time, and I don't be like that. I just I met you, you cool, you good man. So then I seen look over the table and I see him and Crystal Williams sitting over there with two young ladies, and nobody was funny as nobody did like it was a lot of like white people there. And they didn't know like who it was. They didn't know understand. Nobody was saying nothing. So I told the ladies, I told it was some like young white little girls. And I told them, I said, look, y'all got somebody famous in here, right? Like who? I said, look at my man right there, both of them. I said, who that? I said, that's G Money and Kareem from the bank. Like, who is that? I'm like, you don't know about New Jack City? I had to explain to them a little bit, and they were like, oh my God, there's somebody. Like, yo, man, y'all got somebody famous here, man, right there. So, yeah, that was, that was interesting. Then I realized, then I was told, like, later that they were there because they were part of a play, and they had made a stop in Greensboro. I guess they was going out to eat and stuff. So I ain't know nothing about it because I ain't never go to them plays, but they like I said, it was unexpected, but very nice. You know, trying to think that anybody else I met. I met Sinbad one time. I was in Wilmington, North Carolina. I was at a gym. It was Will's Gym. It was on Market Street, close to. I ain't been in Wilmington for a long time, but I don't remember what it's probably like a. It used to, it became a lot of things. It was first it was World Gym, then it was became Gold Gym. It was I think it was World Gym, something like that. And then it became Bellamont College or whatever. But it was between it was on Market Street and New Center Drive. And I was in there and they were working out. And I think that was when Sinbad used to have that. He used to have a festival where he played like a lot of soul music and stuff. Very good, very good. You know, I know he can't do it now because he had a lot of health problems, stuff like that. And, but he was he used to have that little festival there, and he was in the gym one day, and he was just sitting there by himself working out, and I was working out, and I know I was looking at him and stuff. I know he saw me looking at him, but I was kept on working out. So at the very end, and I did get an autograph from him because I don't know. I suspect I don't know. I just wanted an autograph from him because I remember seeing him from watching him on Star Search and how he came up and stuff. And my family liked him. Everybody. He was good. He was in a different world. Made movies. He was pretty good. He was good, man. He was good, good. He good comedy. He good. He was a good comedian. He wasn't. He was you know, to me, he was just as good as the other greats, but he just didn't use. He wasn't like with profanity and vulgar and stuff, but he still was funny. And he was, found a way to be funny without being vulgar and all the profanity and stuff like that. You know, and ain't, that was just his style. And ain't knocking, ain't critiquing nobody's style because I like them both. I like him, and I like all the vulgar stuff. I like Eddie Murphy, all of them. So, like I said, I met him. He was cool, down to earth, and like I said, he gave him some dap. Like, I'm a fan of your stuff, man. You cool and everything. So, that was, and I ain't never been to none of that. I ain't never been to no concert. I've never been to a concert. Like, I've never been. And honestly, I never had any like desire to go because I just never like don't want to be around all the people. I have I also like being around them people because I've growing up and stuff, seen and been around when you have a whole bunch of people in one facility or one area and things can go bad. Things can go bad, you know. So it can you know, it can be a touchy situation. So I just choose not to be in there. So I had the other reason I don't want to go to concerts, but not people that don't go. My sister has been to a lot of concerts. My family's been to concerts. It's not me. I ain't been to, I ain't been down like that. Only thing I've been to one time I went to somewhere, somewhere on a pond, and we went there. Me and my cousin we went there one day. We wasn't expecting anything, just going there just to play, just to go to the pond and stuff. There was a line of people there, and we were just it was like at the time it was a lot, like $30. That was a lot. We paid, got in there, then couldn't find out. Damn, Soul for real there. You know, back if around my age, I know Soul for real was. They, Candy Love and all what other Candy Rain. I said Candy Rain, something like that. Yeah, the group of brothers that sung that. Yeah, we saw them at. Remember the name of the pond was called Bosco Beach. Yeah, so we went there and saw Soul for Real, and they were good. I mean, they came up in their little 4-door sedan. Came up, waited for them for a while. Came up, came on stage and rocked it. We sung about 5 or 6 songs, rocked it and left. It was all right. That's the closest thing I've been to a concert. That was outside at a pond, at a lake, not a pond, a lake. So, other than that, So just just going down, just taking a trip down memory lane. It's Friday. Sometimes just do that. Do a little bit of reflecting. Thinking about what's things that you've done. Things you experienced. And just basically thinking out loud. Sometimes that's what I end up be doing. You know, and nothing in particular. Like I said, I seen the post for, and I really hope it happened. Like I really for real about. I mentioned again about the stop the violence, March in Clinton. I really hope that's. I really hope that that goes through. It's very important that you know Clinton get started. Just healing itself, trying to move forward. You know, get out the past, move forward. You know, TC kids, there's a better way. You don't have to be out here doing this crazy stuff, man. You know, you should be beyond that. Ain't that street, get past that street stuff. The street stuff ain't getting you nowhere, man. That street stuff gets you nowhere. Get you locked up, get you under the dirt, man. You know, teach our kids, man. Get certified for something. It don't matter. You don't have to. Everybody, be realistic. Everybody's not gonna make it at a 4 year college. Everybody's not gonna do all that. But you can get certified for something. Get something when you get a piece of paper saying you certified for it. It don't matter what it is. A lot of professions when you get certified for it. You know, you need to do that. Get start building something. Stop waiting for somebody to do it. Get up, start building something. Get your education. Get certified to do something. Get a trade. Get something. Don't be out here. Get out these damn streets, man. There ain't nothing out here in these streets. Nothing. Ain't nothing out here. You shouldn't be, don't beyond glorifying it and everything, man. It just nah, nah. Glorifying the streets, man. That's part of the problem where we at right now, man. Glorifying the streets. You know, I always feel like that. People want to. I feel like us as a community, man. Sometimes we have this conversation about this, about you know, like our music. As much as we love it, and I love it just as much as everybody else, man. As much as we love it, much as we dance to it, much as we enjoyed it, vibe to it, do what whatever. But some of that music was some of the reason why some of our communities are in the state that it is, man, because it glorified the things that we needed. It glorified the things that was bringing us down, that was keeping us down, you know. And the things that would uplift us, they were pushed in the background and not, you got to realize that people who were making the decisions to put the music out here, they didn't look like us. They were deciding they definitely weren't going to decide to bring music out that was going to make us grow and be strong and be powerful. They definitely weren't going to bring that music out. You know, this was before the internet age, so there wasn't no mass. You had to talk to somebody, white man, a powerful white man for mass distribution of any kind of music you was coming out. You know, and they decided what they was going to bring out. They decided what they were going to push to the public. So they decided to push. There was a time, before 19, maybe like 91, 92. There was a time where hip hop music was coming up and it was more conscious. When music was trying to teach us, trying to make us think and stuff like that. Talk about love and stuff like that, man. And then, you know, like overnight, well, overnight, but it was a quick shift. It went from that to, talking about streets and the violence in the streets and stuff like that. And that caught hold and just, and just took and it took off, and that was pushed down our throat, man. Just all the music that was glorifying violence, the drug culture, the crack culture, what kind of car you got, how much money you got, what you gonna do to somebody if they mess with you, or it was just all that, it was all the negative, aggressive stuff like that, man. The things that were telling us to think and be you're king, you're powerful. Music that was telling us that music was phased out. That music was pushed. It was regional, or it was didn't get airplay or stuff like that. So I feel like things like that, and also in the R&B too, especially with the male R&B. I think as hip hop was going that way, and I think hip hop, I think it sort of merged with R&B, and I think R&B sort of, I heard the musician Tank say this before, and I believe it's true. When I first heard it 3 years ago, and I always thought about it, it's true that if you look at R&B, in the early '90s and stuff, and the '90s, that was R&B, that was the male R&B, the crooners and stuff like that, talking about love and stuff. That was their heyday, but they didn't they didn't they didn't last because R&B took a shift towards hip hop, because hip hop was like coming up in the NBA, so it was sort of mainstream a little bit. Everything that was close to it was getting sucked in, so R&B sort of got sucked in. And you notice with R&B that the music went from back when it was talking about more love and stuff and family and stuff, and it went from that to more like how hip hop went violent. R&B didn't talk about love. It was sort of talking about like I'm gonna take your man. I'm gonna take your woman. I'm about to not a man coming home, kissing his kids, taking care of his, kissing his wife, being a family man. Them songs that you hear about that. All you hear about the ones that was out here, the songs that objectifying women, or telling somebody how you in love with another man's wife, and just all the music that was, and say, mom was glorifying like thoughts of adultery and breaking up house homes and hoes and stuff like that, and stuff, and that stuff had effect. I ain't say it had a major, I ain't say it had a seismic effect, but it had an effect on the mentality of people, man, as far as with love and intimacy and family and stuff like that, man. We listen to our music a lot, and that music influenced us. And that influenced us in a way. We have out here have a lot of kids out of people having kids out of wedlock. Out here being irresponsible and stuff. So, and I ain't saying that was a direct correlation from that. I ain't saying it was a direct cause and effect, but it was a damn it was a variable. It led to it. I know like in the black community, so we don't want to look behind the black community. We don't want to have that conversation sometimes, but you know, hey, it happens. It happens. It has happened, and we don't want to talk about it, you know, because I don't know. Sometimes you have to look in the mirror and be like, look. Sometimes the thing that we enjoy the most, sometimes is the thing that that is the cause of our, you know, some of our problems, some of our issues that we have now. And sometimes getting past it, just being honest and talking about it. Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. I could be wrong, but I'm just talking about stuff that I've seen growing up in my life, and I can't say that that didn't have an effect. 'Cause I seen how people act when you know stuff like that, music come on and stuff. How people are influenced by how back in the day we was coming up, we was very impressionable. We influenced a lot by the music, a lot, a lot, a lot by what artists did, about what they said, and everything. So yes, it has been, yeah. So, but we're here now. Like I said, we're just talking about it. I just want to talk about it and see what we can do about it. Okay, change one thing at a time. Maybe talking about it can be the beginning of changing. You know, and that's what we need, man. We need to get our youth on the right track. So we want to survive here. We want to last for other generations and generations and generations, man. We got to, direct our youth and direct our next generation in the right direction. Man. We can't, put them, send them to the right direction. Man. We can't have them out here, acting all crazy and stuff, man. Because we know where that stuff leads to. We know where it leads, you know. But with that being said, what I'm saying, keep you out here all day today, give you a little, like I said, I'm trying to, you know, asking for, critique, give me, let me know what you think about it. You hit me up, okay, hit me up, Facebook, whatever, hit me up on inbox, whatever, hit me up on a post, whatever. Let me know what I can do better. What I need is, give me a critique. I don't know. That's how I learn. That's how I get better. Let me know. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. Let me know what I can do better. Like I said, sometimes, things are better if they cut shorter. So try to like, shorten. Don't be here for about an hour, between about 35, 40 minutes, 35, 45 minutes or something. I need, you know, give you this quick flavor. That's all you need. You know, with that being said, I hope y'all have a great weekend. I hope the weather's nice where you at, and if it's not, I hope y'all safe. Have a safe weekend. You know, and see y'all back here. I want y'all to sit up here and think about things we can do, man. Things we can do to rise up, man, to get better, man, to make this place better, man. So we all got to share this place together. So so let's think about what we can do to make this thing better, man. Anything y'all, let me know. Hit me up. Want me to say something? Let me know. But yeah, hope y'all have a great weekend. Shout out to my man Charles. Always, my brother. Y'all have a great weekend. I love y'all. Y'all take it easy.